I do want to start with that question, the discussions behind the scenes about a ban on Russian oil. It is our understanding that there have been some hurdles to the U.S. getting Europe on board, its European partners on board. Is it your sense that the U.S. will have to go it alone?
We may have to go it alone on this, and I strongly support the ban on Russian energy products like oil. Remember, we've asked our European friends, and this is one of the areas where the Biden administration has been very strong at bringing those European partners along. We got Germany to get rid of the Nord Stream 2, which would have provided an enormous amount of energy. We've sanctioned Russia, but the Europeans do about 10 times as much trade with Russia as we do, so that's much bigger harm. They import about 4 million barrels a day. From Russia, we import a few 100,000 barrels of oil a day. So even if we have to take a lead on this, and then hopefully our Europeans will come along, I think it's important to take this step. I also think it's important that we take the step of supporting Poland if the Polish government is willing to move some jets over to Ukraine as well in the coming days.
I do want to ask you about the jets, but let me follow up with you on the oil first. How quickly do you think we are going to see action from the Biden administration if it ultimately assesses that the U.S. does have to go it alone? Could it happen in the next 24 hours?
I think it could happen in the next 24, 36 hours. This clearly got an enormous amount of bipartisan support. I think the administration was moving methodically on this. I think we accelerated that. It was so much bipartisan support. We do recognize that there was could have an effect on gasoline prices. We shouldn't kid ourselves. But let's remember, Kristen, the Ukrainian people are literally voting with their lives, trying to say they want to align with the West. They want to endorse Western values, sometimes things that I think we in our country have sometimes taken for granted. If we are not willing to stand up and take some hurt along the way and sacrifice along the way, then I don't think we do credit to this incredible struggle. And I think the American people will rise to the occasion. This is as important a moment as anything in my lifetime. It is the most significant potential worldwide danger since the end of World War II. And if we need to do more and say we're standing with the Ukrainian people, we need to take actions to show that.
And I guess the question is, to your point here, you have Ukrainians risking their lives. They would argue for more than their country, for democracy, as you just said. Has the White House, has Congress done enough to prepare Americans for the pain that they will feel at the pump? In some places, we're already seeing gas prices over $4, and it's anticipated it could get as high as $5, particularly if we cut off Russian oil. Are Americans prepared?
I think that we all need to do a better job of explaining why Ukraine is important. I mean, I'm old enough, I grew up in the Cold War, and there was never a question that we wouldn't stand up to the Soviet Union and the threat of communism. Younger people have been blessed since the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 to have 30-some-odd years of none of this kind of ideological and democracy versus authoritarianism. That threat is back up and alive. It's playing out real time in Ukraine. And I do think we need to make the point that Putin is a bully. He's an authoritarian autocrat. He will not stop at Ukraine. And if we really believe in our values, we need to stand with others like the Ukrainians who, as I said, are literally voting with their lives to try to embrace Western liberal democracy ideals.
Senator, just to follow up with you on that point, does President Biden need to give a speech? I mean, it's obviously something he talked about in his State of the Union address, but does he need to give a speech in which he just lays out the price that Americans should expect to bear in order to play a part in defeating Putin?
I think there is a need, and whether the president and all of us in Congress, if we believe this, and I believe it to my core, that this is a kind of an existential moment for the challenge between the values that we espouse in liberal democracy, a free press, right to vote, right to differ of opinions, versus someone who will shut down any opposition and has kind of an old-style authoritarian system that is the opposite of everything we believe in. And I think if we make that kind of appeal, Americans will be quicker to respond, so that we make that connection that this is not just a conflict that's happening halfway around the world, but this does, at the end of the day, affect each and every American.
Senator, there's been so much focus on the possibility of a diplomatic off-ramp, and hopes for that have just faded by the day and by the minute. Is this a war, a conflict that can end with Putin still in power?
I hope so. I don't think we can, Putin still has enormous control in Russia. You've seen literally thousands and thousands of protesters.
How does it happen, though, if he won't stop the shelling, if he won't even allow for a ceasefire for civilians to get out of the country?
You have asked the million-dollar question. Putin has been so isolated. He's set such unobtainable goals in terms of saying, Ukraine has to demilitarize, has to give up its territorial claims to Crimea, a host of things he knew are not reasonable. My hope is that some of the behind-the-scenes efforts of the Israeli prime minister, I know the French president, I'd like to get a little better sense on how those conversations are going. But we have been concerned literally for months that Putin is boxed himself in such a corner. Is there a diplomatic off-ramp? And at the end of the day, though, we have to keep the pressure on, because this is not a guy that's going to respond to, goodwill gestures simply because of moral values.
I want to ask you about government funding. It obviously runs out in a matter of days, and as a part of the package that is being negotiated, it would include $10 billion that would go to aid Ukraine. Are you confident that it will get passed by the deadline and that you'll get that aid to Ukraine as quickly as possible?
I am confident that the Ukrainian aid will be in whatever package. I find it a little bit disheartening that we're talking about the value of democracy, and yet the most basic tenet of our responsibility as Congress is to pass a budget and fund the basic powers of government, domestic, military, and this essential aid. So I still think we'll work it through this week. I would hope after this, we in Congress ought to take a look in the mirror and say, you know what, kicking the can on all these issues, not doing individual appropriations bills and waiting to these so-called giant, what they're called omnibus, and only Washington speak would use that term, is really not reflective of how our system ought to operate.
All right, Senator Warner, thank you so much for your time and your perspective today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.